Hi, Evan Pantazi. I got a question from one of our users here on YouTube, Catsincages. Thank you for the question and the comments of late, and the good comments you're making. That means that you're listening to the videos, you get the concepts, you're trying to pick up on them. So, again, thank you for those. Now, she asked if what effect that the Kyusho had on like a muscle man, a bodybuilder type, or a fat person. Let's take it the fat person first. And I mentioned this in the comment back to her. Um, let's go to the muscle man first, excuse me. I mentioned this in the comment to her that Gichin Funakoshi once said, the stronger a man tries to make himself, the weaker he becomes. Now, what happens when you build muscle? And you're tearing the muscle and it's reforming again with some scar tissue. You're also stretching out the nerves of the body, okay, because that increased muscle mass puts pressure on the nerves, stretches them out, especially if you put on the bulk that a typical bodybuilder would be putting on. Now, those people, because their nervous system is stretched out and to the max in some cases, the nerves are very susceptible. Okay, it's harder to get to them because the muscle is so dense and so big. Grabbing onto them is sometimes impossible because of the size of their muscle structures. But there's ways to attack them. You just have to work with it and experience it and practice with these people. And that's why I always say that hands-on practice is the best. And the areas where the muscles stop, say on the inner forearm, if you or the inner upper arm, if you make a muscle like a classic bodybuilder pose where they're holding their arm up, there's a pocket that forms, and the bigger their muscle, the deeper that pocket. Now that nerve that's inside is now so exposed you can pinch it directly against the bone with little impingement, and that's going to cause an awful lot of pain, dysfunction on the person, and that could end the situation. If you punched it in that manner, because now there's a bigger pocket to even reach into, then that person's going to have a problem. But it's like, if you look at a racehorse, where's a racehorse the weakest? They have huge muscles in their legs, but their ankles are in danger because of all the muscle and the stretching. It's weakened the ankles and all that pounding. So you look at the small areas on the bodybuilders, and the more they build up, say, their calf muscles, the weaker their ankles become. Okay, the weaker their knees become. If they're building up their forearm muscles, their wrists are going to be that much weaker. Now, power lifters are different. That's a different body structure, a different muscle building activity. They're usually dense all over and a lot harder to get to. However, their tendons are overstretched. Okay, and they're easy to work with, all right, should I say. And there's other targets that are weak on those people as well. So again, this is why we encourage people to do study groups and to build a group and to work with a whole bunch of people. Come to the seminars. If you're not coming to the seminars, to get your hands on a whole bunch of different people, body sizes, body shapes, martial arts styles of and body actions from many different styles, then you're not getting the full education. Now let's transfer back over to the fat man. Now the fat person is going to have the nervous system, also the blood system, and the blood system is also very weak on a bodybuilder too, because as that blood has to pump even more actively into the blood vessels to pump up the muscles as much. There's stress on the blood vessels and the heart in particular. As a matter of fact, some of these bodybuilders, especially the guys that do steroids and the extra stuff to make them even bigger, they're walking heart attacks. Their heart is in such a weakened condition. Their vascular tissue is in such a weakened condition. They're just asking for trouble. All right. So if they come looking for it, well, and you hit them on any of these targets, well, they're going to go down twice as fast, twice as hard. Now, getting back to the fat man, you have a different stretch on it. All the internal organs are going to be pulled down by the abdominals weight and pull. You're going to have increased pressure on the diaphragm, the internal organs, the diaphragm, the heart. The situation that fat people and obese people have with health. All right. So again, now you're not going to punch into their fat. You know, wouldn't punch them into the stomach, but that's not where Kyusho targets really are laying. Their abdominal, it depends on how big they are. Okay, if their abdominal's pulling down, and their ribs or their liver, for example, is pressurized because of the abdominal fat, and you strike it, you're going to cause a major amount of problems. The legs, for example, you hit those are stretched to the max. They usually bow inward at the knee, and that causes a weakening in the tendons, the ligaments, the connective tissues, and that's going to cause them distress. Easy to break a knee on a heavy person, easy to dysfunction their ankles, break their feet, things like that, because of their body weight coming down, especially. But if you hit in the upper chest, even if they're really obese and you can't get to their liver because the fat is that much and that big and that high, well, you hit into the upper chest region in here. Now, there's pressure on the diaphragm, but there's also pressure on the lungs, there's pressure on the heart, because there's internal fat structures as well. So if you go pounding on these, they're going to drop. And as they drop, because they can't really control their fall because of their weight, their body positioning, the wear and tear on the ligaments, the joints and whatnot, they're going to have a bad time. Also, the weight pulls down on all these structures of the body, so you're going to be able to get into those targets. You just have to, again, pick and choose your targets. You don't hit into the fat, you don't hit into the muscle. We always hit in between structures. So it doesn't matter if they're a bodybuilder and they've got muscle structure that we have to get past, or is it fat and we have this fat tissue we have to get past. There's always a place to find the Kyusho targets, and these two body dynamics are going to be very vulnerable. You just have to know where, how, and what to do to get to them, and that's why we urge people to actually train hands-on, get into the groups, get into the seminars, and you'll learn any body structure and any body movement from Krav Maga right on up to Tai Chi. Okay, you'll understand the movements of these martial arts, as well as learning the physical properties of the human body. Thanks for watching. Great question, Cats and Cages. Thanks a lot.